Welcome to the SPS Digital Learning Hour, brought to you by the Digital Learning and Assessment Department. We're coming to you today from a conference room in Central Office, bringing you the latest news in Springfield Public Schools in regards to technology, along with inspiring interviews from teachers who are using technology in the classroom. I am your host, Mike Thomas, the Bearded Tech Ed guy. You can find me out on all the social medias at Bearded Tech Ed or my website, beardedtechedguy.com. We're going to jump in today talking about a couple of updates. First, Skype in the classroom is what our latest blog post is all about. In the article, you can learn how to use it in a plethora of different ways. Skype in the classroom is just one of those tools that is pretty awesome. That's because we're a Microsoft district, we have access to very easily. So I highly encourage you to check it out. There's a lot of great resources that they provide for you to be able to give your students a field trip around the world. We're going to jump into our interviews of the week. You may have noticed that I just said interviews of the week. This week, before we jump into our book study that we're going to be doing, I thought it would be great, especially because we're starting to promote here in Springfield, looking for 2nd and 5th grade teachers, all about CSforAll. So I have compiled some interviews that I've done. We're going to start off with a few of the teachers and our CIO, Paul Foster, talking about CS education and how they got into it and how they became a part of the process. Next week, we'll hear from CS coordinators and researchers from UMass, which is all where our grants comes from, and those who are trying to organize and help lead us. So, first up is Paul Foster, CIO of Springfield Public Schools.
Why did you decide to embark on this CS work in Springfield?
I think we got excited about doing computer science in Springfield because, as we look at the future and we look at the job market and look at careers, we're preparing students who are 5 and 6 years old. We're preparing them for a world that's going to have artificial intelligence and all manner of technology. And really, regardless of occupation, our students are going to have to interact with and engage with technology. And we want them to understand how that technology works, not just how to use it.
So what is the value of participating in the RPP?
So for Springfield Public Schools, being part of a research practice partnership with the University of Massachusetts has been an important part of our computer science work because this is new for us. Within the Springfield Public Schools, there aren't people, or certainly are not a lot of people, who have expertise in computer science, even in what computer science is or the components of it or how to teach it. And at the university, both in the College of Ed, in the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, in the College of Computer Science, there are people who think all the time, not only about what is computer science, but how to teach it, how to build lessons to teach it. And so by having a partnership where we have researchers working basically alongside us, so where our teachers are building lessons where we can teach computer science in our elementary classrooms, we have researchers from the university who are actively in those classrooms or participating in the groups where those lessons are being designed, engaging in the conversation, giving feedback, helping us kind of figure out, what are our next steps, or even, based on the research, what are things that are working in terms of teaching computer science to kids, what are things that aren't working. So really it makes it a much more kind of interactive and reflective process of building these lessons, because it's not just us in the Springfield Public Schools building lessons. We have partners who are experts in the field who are giving us feedback on a regular basis.
So why do you feel that this work is important for our students in Springfield?
I think for our students in Springfield, there's a couple things a couple reasons I think we feel that computer science is critically important. One is the future. It's the future. So certainly when it comes to occupations, careers, there's going to be an expectation of proficiency with technology that goes beyond your typical using things like word processors or email. Our students are going to need to understand what coding is. They're going to need to understand how coding works. So I think there is that sort of, our goal in the Springfield Public Schools is to graduate students from high school who are ready for college and career. And there's no version of readiness for college and career in this century that doesn't involve an understanding of coding, computer science, computational thinking. So I think that's one reason. I think another reason is in the computer science field, certainly in the United States and potentially, well, I'll just stick to the United States. In the computer science field in the United States, the field is dominated by white and Asian American men. And I think if, computer science is a field that's driving a lot of innovation in our world, and if all of that innovation is not coming from people who reflect the population of our country as a whole, that innovation is not going to be for the population of our country as a whole. And the reality is, the Springfield Public Schools, our student population are largely students of color who are dramatically underrepresented in computer science fields. And so it's important, I think, for all school districts to be thinking about this, but it's especially important in a school district like Springfield, where 85% of our students are students of color, that we need to be giving them opportunities to learn computer science, but also get excited about computer science fields. We very deliberately started our computer science work at the elementary grades. So we have computer science courses in high schools, we have electives, but our computer science for all work started at the elementary grades. And the reason for that is students, late elementary school, early middle school, just developmentally, children are drawing conclusions or making decisions about what they think they're good at or what they think they like. What the sort of cliche of what do I want to be when I grow up. Children are making decisions early. They're making, 4th, 5th grade, 6th grade. You hear students say things like, I'm bad at math. And so for us, it was incredibly important that we gave our students early exposure to computer science. So instead of saying things like, I don't like computer science or I'm not good at computer science, when our students are going into 6th grade and middle school, they're saying things like, I want to be a computer scientist or I want to be a programmer. Or even if they're not saying they want to do those occupations, they just have a depth of knowledge and comfort where they're not afraid of it. Because if we wait till high school, there's going to be a whole segment of our students who just decide, oh no, this isn't for me. I think the third reason that computer science is critical for our kids is when you break it down, it sounds crazy, it sounds scary when you talk about computer science. But really what computer science is taking a problem and applying a systematic approach to solving that problem, right? And so in the case of computers, if you're coding a computer, you have to tell the computer what to do in a very clear series of steps. You can't, if you get the steps wrong, the computer's going to do something you don't expect or something that you don't want. At a really basic level, a fundamental skill we want for our children is problem solving. To take a complex problem, to think about how to break that problem down into its component parts, and then figure out how to solve that problem in a step-by-step way. So whether our students, when they graduate, are doing that by programming a computer or a robot, or whether they're doing that in some other field, that skill, that ability to take a critical look at a problem, think hard about what are the root causes of that problem, and then how would I go out solving that in a systematic step-by-step way. I think regardless of whether kids become programmers or become computer scientists, those are skills that every one of our students need to be truly college and career ready.
With this being a research project, have you had the opportunity to observe some of the lessons being taught?
I have not yet had a chance to observe any of the lessons, although I've been part of the reflection meetings where our teachers are coming back from having piloted lessons in the classroom and sharing what they've learned, which is it's been so fun and so exciting to hear kind of what happens in classrooms, because one of the things that I think we expected, but it's good to hear it, and it's probably more exciting than I even expected, is how much kids love it. How much a 5-year-old in kindergarten gets excited at the prospect of making a robot move the direction it wants it to move, with the direction the student wants that robot to move. And the other thing that is so exciting hearing feedback from teachers as they've been piloting these lessons is how resilient and persistent our kids are. And so for whatever reason, certainly our children are growing up in an age where technology is all around them. But for whatever reason, children who, if they have a worksheet with a math problem put in front of them, will get frustrated and put the pencil down and say, I can't do this. For whatever reason, if they're trying to solve a problem using a piece of technology or trying to make a robot go in a certain direction, and the first time it goes in the wrong direction and they try to fix it, and the second time it goes in the wrong direction, there is a way that our children are persisting or pushing through, figuring out what went wrong the first time. I'm not saying, technology is not magical, but there is something about our children's willingness to keep trying. When we see our students engaging with these computer science lessons, we see that will to keep trying. We're not necessarily seeing when they're doing other kinds of work. And I think one of our hopes or goals is that building that persistence, that willing to keep trying, that willing to, the computer science language is to debug. So that willingness for students to keep trying until they fix the bug, until they solve the problem that's keeping them from getting the right answer, or get the robot to move in the right direction. I hope, and I think one of our goals is that persistence will carry over into other areas. So it doesn't have to be just with a robot.
Thanks, Paul. That was very informative. Now we're going to jump into our time with some of the teachers who are out there testing the lessons. They are team members of the CSforAll Springfield. First up, we're going to listen to Emma Bartlett. She's a third grade teacher over at Lincoln Elementary.
So why did you initially sign up for the CSforAll project?
Sure. So my principal reached out to me over this past summer and said, hey, check out this opportunity. It looks great. So I said, the job description looks great. Like, definitely my classroom is very innovative. So I thought it would fit nicely in with my classroom and doing new things. And so I applied, and it's been a great experience.
So how has this impacted your students?
My students, I feel like, are struggle with sometimes putting things into fruition. Like, they struggle with final products, and this computer science has helped to progress them to get to that final product more often, and they really do enjoy working with computer science and computational thinking, because it's a different way of thinking in a very concrete but also abstract way of thinking, and it gets different parts of their brain going and things like that.
What were your initial thoughts about CS and teaching CS? And then how has that changed over the course of the year?
Sure. So I thought CS was just on the computer, and you put these things together and make an algorithm on the computer to have a certain output. I didn't know that CS and computational thinking goes far beyond just using technology. It really utilizes a lot of different skills that we use every day. For example, brushing your teeth in the morning, you have to have a certain steps to complete in order to do it successfully. And that's computational thinking in itself. We do things like that, small things every day, and we're very precise in our instructions. And talking about computational thinking and thinking about how things work is a really part of everyday life. So we not only encounter computer science on the computer, but we also do it in our everyday lives, which I had not ever thought about it in that way before.
So what would you say to someone who's thinking about signing up for this project?
I say do it. It really expanded my horizons and my risk-taking in the classroom. I'm really apprehensive sometimes to take risks and do things that other people created. And this really pushed me outside of my box and to think about things in a different way. And it really has actually changed my teaching craft, and started to insert some of the things that I learned through this project into my everyday teaching routine. So it's great.
So why is it important to make CS accessible for all students in Springfield?
So as we move through the 21st century, a lot of the workplace is very heavily weighted on how we function as humans and how we function on technology, and really bringing this to all students will help teachers and students be more successful in the classroom, but also in the workplace and during their college careers. So that's really why I think all students should have some sort of CS in their education.
Next up in our interviews for this week is Jamiee Thomas, a kindergarten teacher over at Sumner Ave.
So why did you initially sign up for the CSforAll project?
So I was at Boland last year, and I had a friend who was a kindergarten teacher there as well who did the program last year. And I know it was very, not as organized as it is this year, and it wasn't his biggest project, but even when the stuff that she was doing in it and then bringing in the kind of have me pilot and stuff, I thought was really interesting. So when it came up at at PD at the beginning of the year, I immediately jumped on it because I thought that it was just something that was so different and so interesting.
So how has the project impacted your students?
My kids walk around talking about algorithms and loops and programs. And anytime I say the word, it repeats over and over. They're always like, that's a loop. They're 5 and 6-year-olds and they know the terminology of this computer science. It's just so cool.
What were your initial thoughts about CS and teaching CS, and how has that changed over the course of this project?
Scary. I think I'm techie, but I'm not high techie. I know how to run Excel and a PowerPoint and turn on a computer and sort of a little bit maybe above basics. So I was really nervous when we first started that it was so out of my comfort zone. And I think a lot of the launch CS stuff that we did, when we'd be doing the coding in Scratch, I'd be like, what is happening right now? And Victoria, who is another kindergarten teacher at Sumner, who was in my dyad with me, she's young, she's 25, so this was her jam. So she's really made me much more comfortable in the computer science. I'm okay with all the unplugged stuff. And even in kindergarten, we're just getting into the B-bots and the Cubetos. Scratch and making those things still scare me a little bit. So I don't know if I went and taught another grade. I'm definitely not comfortable with them, so I need a lot more practice with them. But I think everything else has been not as difficult as I thought it was going to be.
So what would you say to someone who is thinking about signing up for this project?
Well, I'd say if you're at all thinking about it, I would sign up. It's a lot of work, but it's been a lot of time. I shouldn't say it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of time. But I think that the stuff that we've done and the stuff that we've created and just imagining in my head where it can go when we're having kindergartners do these things. And if we keep this, when we keep this going in 3 years, fifth grade, I can't only imagine the stuff that fifth graders are going to be creating. So just to be a part of the project and a part of where this is going is more than enough reason to do it.
So why is it important to make CS accessible to all students in Springfield?
I've been told that's where everything is going. Everything. All careers, all college, everything is heading this way. So the fact that, Springfield, Massachusetts, whatever the population is here, is leading this charge, and our kids are going to go into college and be like, I can code that for you. Just run Scratch, ready to go. And that came from Springfield. That's just.
We're going to wrap up our interviews for this week with Danalyn Haynes, third grade teacher over at Glenwood.
So why did you initially sign up for the CS project?
So I initially signed up for the project because I was interested in integrating digital learning and computer science standards with the content that I'm teaching in class. I'm a reading teacher, so I had done some work with the district the year prior with making lessons using the LCS standards, and we really focused on math and science because I think it's easy to find those connections, but I was interested this year to see how I could connect them to reading.
So how did this project impact your students?
I think that this project impacted my students by making them more engaged in the content. They were really invested in the product, which was a Scratch project to show how a character changed. So I noticed that because they were really invested in getting the product complete the way that they wanted it to, they were able to persevere more through the work. And it was also, I think, really solidified their understanding of the concept a little bit more because it was a concrete way for them to see a character changing, literally on a screen. Yeah.
So what were your initial thoughts about CS and teaching CS, and how has that changed over the course of the year?
My initial thought about teaching CS was that it was, computer science was for people that were talented with technology. Through doing this work and completing the professional development, I realized that computer science and computational thinking is really about just a pathway to a solution, and it's more about the type of thinking that the students are doing. By practicing computational thinking, I'm seeing that my students are becoming deeper thinkers. Like I said before, I also see them persevering through tasks more when they're using computational thinking.
So what would you say to someone who's thinking about signing up for this project?
I would say that this is a really exciting opportunity because really we're pioneers of this work. We're some of the first teachers in the United States thinking about how to use these standards, these digital learning and computer science standards, with elementary curriculum. I think that if you want to be on the forefront of that work, that this is a really exciting opportunity.
So why is it important to make CS accessible for all students in Springfield?
I think that it is imperative for students of Springfield to be exposed to these standards from a young age. Because if you look at the computer science field right now, it's filled with white men. And I think that the work that we're doing hopefully will diversify the field and give students of Springfield an opportunity, because really the jobs going forward are going to require them to use computational thinking.
Thank you, Paul and ladies. There's a lot of great information that you guys shared with us all about the things that are going on with the CS project. If you are interested in learning more about CSforAll, I highly encourage you to contact Paul Foster or Denise Matuzik to be able to become a part of that. We are going to be starting to look for 2nd and 5th grade teachers that join in at the very beginning stages of the project. So where a lot of these teachers were, that you just heard, is where the 2nd and 5th grade teachers will be starting. And like I mentioned at the very beginning of this part of the podcast, next week we're going to look and listen to our CS coordinators, those who are helping organize everybody, and our researchers from UMass Amherst. So they are all a part of this project too. That's how we got this grant. So I highly encourage you to tune in next week. Thank you again for spending time with us this week. I hope you learned a lot, especially about CS education here in Springfield and how we are very excited to be doing things that, in some regards, are not being done widespread yet. There's lots of great teachers doing lots of great things, and this is just a small smattering of how teachers in Springfield are moving our students forward. And so thank you again for listening. If this is the first time you're listening to the podcast, we are so excited for you to be listening. Hopefully you'll subscribe. Head over to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Spreaker, wherever you happen to listen to the podcast. Sign up to subscribe to us, give us a rating, leave us a review. It's very much appreciated. It helps us continue to spread the word about all the great things that are happening here in Springfield. And as always, I always like to preface the end of our podcast with this. If you know of a teacher who'd be great to interview, or if you are doing some great things in the classroom, we'd love to hear from you and hear about the things that you are doing in your room or in your building so we can share that out with everybody else. Because one of the things in a district this size is that we don't get an opportunity that often to share all the great things that are going on. We have a lot of amazing teachers here in Springfield, and their hard work deserves to be recognized and it deserves to be noticed. And that's something that our department tries to do, is anytime we get an opportunity to go out and talk to people, is to recognize their excellence. So if you know of somebody, if you are somebody, please contact us. You can contact us through the SPS Help Desk, or you can email us directly. I'm Thomas M.I. at springfieldpublicschools.com. You can reach out through social medias, through Yammer, through whatever channel that you listen to us. You can always reach out that way. Once again, I am Mike Thomas, the Bearded Tech Ed guy, and this is the SPS Digital Learning Hour.